in terms of what actually happens, but this middle line is always what happened the previous year. All right? And these blue bars coming down is the forecast that we made 11 months ahead. This happens to be over 2 years. That's 11 months ahead, and our blue bars, so everything that we forecast compared to that previous year, right? And every red bar going up is warmer than the previous year. This is week by week, although we do this daily. And the black line is what actually happened. And what you see is basically the black line following the pattern, right? Now, it's not weather exact, as I said earlier. It's weather trends. We're trying to pick up the trend. Every time we pick up the trend right, we say, oh, that's an accurate forecast. That's the 80-some%. And I'll explain that in a minute. But when we look here, we said, oh, it's going to be warmer. Well, it was much warmer than we thought. But we said, oh, that was accurate because we got the trend right. Okay. But you can see here, it was the coldest week in the last 2 years. We had projected that it would be the coldest week. It was colder than we thought, but nevertheless, we say, well, that was an accurate forecast. So that's what we mean when we say forecast, accurate forecast. We're getting the direction. All right, so this is a multi-year from 2013 up to about this time last year, and this is a temperature chart, and we can see how the black line basically follows the pattern. Sometimes it follows exactly, but sometimes the computer turns on. All right, why did that happen? Yes, I did. All right. So you might remember the winter of 2014 was insanely cold. And we said it would be very cold, but it was colder than we thought. These polar vortexes right here. And so we don't miss seasons. We miss weeks. 10 weeks, 12 weeks, I'm going to hit, 8, 9 of them. 2 or 3 of them are going to be wrong. Wrong in terms of getting the direction right. All right? But we're trying to capture that trend and the magnitude of the trend. Right? All right. So here is a precipitation. We do this weekly. And again, this is for the entire United States. This is 79%. By the way, not everything's 84%, right? Doesn't make any sense. Given any given time period and geographical coverage, it's going to vary. I've seen it as low as 68, 70%. I've seen it as high as 92%. It varies depending on what you're looking at. But this forecast here is we're just trying to capture the trend. But you can see how the black line is basically following the path. Every brown bar coming down is a precipitation forecast less than the previous year, that same day or week. In this case, turn it up, sorry. And every green bar going up is more precipitation. And again, we would say, well, if we had a lot of precipitation right in here, we would say, well, that was accurate because we said it would be more, but it was even more than we thought. All right, so that's the entire United States. I'm going to do a little history here. This is actually back in 2014. The winter that I just talked about that was really cold. This is a forecast that was done by NOAA, the National Weather Service. This is the Weather Channel. This is WeatherTrends. AccuWeather, I'm sorry. AccuWeather, remember, this was really, really cold, right? AccuWeather said it would be warmer in the east and cooler in the west. Weather Channel said it was going to be a really warm winter. That's my people there. Whew. All right, big miss. This is NOAA. They have, this is hard to see, but this area here in the middle, they call the forecast to be equal chances. What in the world does that mean? Equal chances. All right? I don't understand. This stuff gets printed in the ag news all the time, the ag media. I'm like, what is this? This isn't doing anybody any good. Equal chances, you might as well have just said, we have no. Because basically they don't. And by the way, their forecasts were all done 1 month before. Ours were done 11 months before. All right? So this is all their forecast. And this is our forecast, which is done 11 months ahead. We said it would be the coldest and snowiest in 3 to 5 years. All this blue is colder than the previous year, and it would be warmest in 8 years out west, and this is what actually happened. It was extremely cold. That dark blue means it was very, very cold. You remember that. It was crazy cold, right? We had kind of these waves of forecast. And so it turned out to be the coldest in 11 years, but snowiest in 3. So again, it's not weather exact, it's weather trends. But generally speaking, that map looks very similar to that map. Not exactly, but similar, right? All right, this is last winter. So then we had forecasts 11 months ahead that it would be warmer, particularly in those areas where it was so cold, okay, compared to the previous year. The gold means that it would be warmer, but not as much, over 5 degrees over the previous year. And this is actually colder, and this is what actually happened. So again, this looks pretty similar. Up here in the Pacific Northwest, we said it would be warmer. It was even warmer than we thought. But again, we got the trend right? Trying to pick up that trend. So those look similar. I just got an email from Lieutenant Bill Kirk, literally as I was just coming in here, where he was showing me how we crushed it for this winter, and everybody else missed it. What's going on? They use physics. Physics doesn't work. It breaks down quickly. It just doesn't. Probability statistics, that's what works. I didn't have time when he sent that to me to show you on the screen. I'll probably hit the next presentation wherever I'm at. All right, so here we go. So this is the Corn Belt, 2015. This is the temperature. This is our 11-month ahead forecast, 83% accurate. You can see how basically the black line following, we kind of had up and down, warm, cold. Generally, planting season was pretty good, right? It was pretty warm. You can see how that was pretty warm. We predicted that it would be generally pretty warm. And then we got out here into late June, and it started to get pretty warm, and it was consistently warm for basically from June all the way through August. Had a little cool down here, but then we also had a pretty warm and easy harvest, right? So that's across the entire Corn Belt. This is the rainfall. This is what we had. You can see again, black line following the pattern generally. But we got in here to June. This is interesting because this is extreme. You had a bunch of rain because there was a tropical storm that came through, which is totally an aberration. That's crazy. Tropical storm season doesn't start until July. This is June when we had remnants of a tropical storm come through and just buried the central United States with rain. So that's what that was. But then we got out in here into July. And we can see we had projected there would be 3 weeks of much more rain than the previous year. This is what actually happened. Sorry, I didn't love it. There you go. All right. Anybody have rain in July? Nobody had rain in July? Lots of it, exactly. And that's what we had called, actually. All right? And then we got out here. Thank you. Come on, guys. We had rain in July. We know it. It's not a secret. I got it. I know what happened. All right? All right. And then we got into a nice warm fall, right? A warm fall and not too much rain, so it was good. Harvest was good. Great. All right, fantastic. That's the Corn Belt. This is a forecast map that I showed. So what I didn't mention, I failed to mention, I should mention, is that in the one of our clients, in fact, we're really excited about working with is LG Seeds and AgriLiant, their parent company, right? So back in February of last year, I met with the LG Seeds and AgriLiant sales teams to show them how this worked, right? And I showed them this map. I said your planting season would be pretty dry. This is a precipitation map, but it would be very wet down here in Texas. You remember there was a lot of headlines, a lot of stories about floods in Texas, and it was really a big washout in April and May. All right, and that's what we had projected. We also showed them this map, going back to July, right? We said, okay, here's what we're expecting. This is starting down here, basically in Alabama, moving up these heavy rains, 200% of the previous year. Starting in Alabama, moving all the way up through Tennessee, into Illinois, all the way up here into Iowa, across and down into California, and then a big group area right in here. So, and then a big dry out down here in Texas. So I like to show this map because, again, we had 100 LG Seeds executives in a room, and I was showing this to them. By the way, they're like, yeah, sure. They were skeptics. They're like, okay. But also, by the way, I've been working with AgriLiant for 3 years. You can imagine that they would not trap me out here to talk to you about something that you think is crazy and impossible unless they believe it. They've been tracking our forecast for 3 years until we could kind of go public with our partnership. All right? And so that's what actually we forecast. This is what actually happened. I want to go back here for a second. This is the forecast. I want you to notice these areas right in here. Right there and right there. All right? And you guys are right here, right on that edge. Some of you may have been not too bad, and some of you might have been pretty heavy. I don't know. Because you're right on the edge. This is what actually happened. All right? And so here we see, starting down here in Alabama, just like I said, starting down here in Alabama, moving up through Tennessee, here's the big area in Indiana. Here's those two sections that we just talked about. Not too bad, more rain, coming right through here, all the way down here. And there's the big drought in Texas. Now, again, it's not weather exact, right? Here's the forecast. Here's what actually happened. It's not weather exact, but they look pretty similar, don't they? All right? Our forecast done 11 months ahead. Statistics, probability. All right, so let me run through real quick. So this is September. I'm going to show you something I think you'll find interesting. We had a lot, in September we forecast a lot of rain in the northeast, down here in the south, dry out across here, of course, as you guys know, and this is what actually happened. There's the rain, but here, look how dry it is. Those browns and golds are drier, much drier than the previous year, all right? Here's October. We said a lot of rain up in here and down here in Texas, but dry out down here around Missouri, and look what happened. More dry than we thought. We're getting the pattern right, but the magnitude of it is greater than we thought, right? Here's November. Lots of rain here in November, right? You guys got it? Yes, this was our forecast, okay? And the green is more rain than the previous year, the lighter green, not as heavy, but this is what actually happened. There's even more rain, more. So we're picking up the pattern. The statistical probabilities, the formulas are picking up the pattern, but they're more exaggerated. Why? This is the effects of El Nino. This is the effects of El Nino. Is not changing the pattern. It's just exaggerating. Right? So that's what's going on there. All right, so we've had our forecasts that have been tracked by professors at the University of Miami and West Point over 7 years. For 260 metro locations, 11 months ahead, our forecast 11 months ahead versus NOAA's 1 month ahead. We crushed them. 85% of the time we beat them. And we were twice as likely to be in terms of what actually happened, in terms of how close we were to our neighbor. Physics doesn't work. Probability, statistics, correlations. That's what works. All right? So, we have been, as I said, in the corporate sector, and then 3 years we started thinking about working on a new service for the agriculture sector, all right? And so we actually then last year, about a year ago, we launched this new service at WeatherTrends360.com, all right? And specifically for, pretty much for farmers, although small businesses can get into it, right? All right, and so one of the things we were able to do while we were doing this is we talked to a number of different farmers to try to understand your work. Understand what your challenges are. And one of the things that really struck us is this. As we sit here today and you look out at your growing season, there are 9 combinations of things that could happen, right? In terms of from a weather perspective. It might be warmer and drier, cooler or wetter, or maybe similar to average or similar to the previous year. There's 9 combinations. That's a 1 in 9 chance as you sit here today and say, well, what am I going to deal with? And that's basically an 11% chance, which is like no chance at all, right? Now, you all live this, so I don't have to tell you this. This is the world that you live in. But it struck us that 11% chance is obviously crazy, right? So what do you do? What do you do with 11% chance? Anybody? Gamble. We're in a casino. Woo! Let's roll the dice. We have no idea, right? I also like to get the answer, well, we pray. And that's understandable too. But the reality is that you hedge. You prepare for everything, and you're ready for anything and everything, and you hedge a little bit, right? So you might be selecting several different hybrids. Some of them are going to work better than others, but it's not going to be a big washout. You're also not going to set records. All right, but you're doing a mixture, right? Some are going to work better. You might be selling your yield, marketing your yield, maybe 7% a month, 8% a month, maybe a small percentage every quarter. Maybe you got an advisor who's telling you, put these puts and calls in, hedge yourself this way and that way. Smart guys, good guys, something you should be doing, right? But because you don't know what's coming at you, at the end of the day, you're just trying to kind of sort of beat the average, right? What if I was 60% right? What if it was 70% right? It doesn't have to be 84%, right? That's exponentially better than 11%. What would you have done differently if you had seen a forecast for your fields that said it was going to be heavy, heavy rain? By the way, when I showed that original map for July to a lot of the people that showed this to a number of different people, they said, "Oh, this is great. There's going to be a lot of rain." I'm like, "Whoa, 200%." More than 2015, and 2014 was in 2015 than it was in 2014, 200% is not good. It's too much. Unless, of course, you're in Kansas where they're like, hey, 200% means we got 2 inches instead of 1. Woo! Fantastic. Right? But when we got twice as much as the previous year, which is almost ideal, that is 2014, that was not good. Right? So what would you have done differently, right? If you had seen that? What kind of decisions could you make to kind of adjust your operation in some small, even small ways to make a difference? All right. This particular farmer we were working with, because we were testing out the system, right? And he's in Fulton, Illinois, which is northern Illinois, where I grew up, in Rockford, Illinois. Did I tell you we grew up in Rockford? Yeah, I did. I'm happy with this trigger. All right, so this guy got $120,000 in incremental revenue using our system. This is back in 2014. We told him it would be the coolest and wettest summer in his area in 5 years, and across the Corn Belt. And he started selling this crap much earlier because the price was about $5 then. And so that's, and it ultimately, dropped down to $3. But also this is the forecast for his fields. He had 80% on his temperature, 70% on his precipitation. This is April through October, all the way, right? We said this third week right here in April would be a warm week and a dry week. And so we said, that's the week you should plant. Now, he's in northern Illinois. I grew up in northern Illinois. I can tell you there was a lot of Easters where it was really, really cold, really freezing. We said, don't worry, you will not have a frost. Go ahead and plant. He picked his hybrids and his maturities based on planting, planned everything to plant that week, got everything in the ground, and bam, got the $120,000 incremental revenue. Nice, right? All right. Now, I got a bunch of those. I'm not going to try them all out here because, it would be boring you. But I've got, this guy's down in Texas. This is a farmer we worked with down in Texas. He says, I can't decide if I should promote your company or just sit back and look like the smartest farmer in north central Texas. Or, we've got a guy in eastern Pennsylvania we work with. He said, having a year-ahead outlook has changed the way he farms. We've been working with him for 3 years. Down here, this is a gentleman named Noah Freeman. Noah Freeman at Ag Reliant, parent of LG Seeds, is my gatekeeper. If he doesn't, he's the head of precision technology. If he doesn't believe what we do, then I'm not here. He says that having that the WeatherTrends providing a highly accurate forecast and new crop models for growers. So that's just a couple. And by the way, I get people who call me from time to time saying, can I talk to some of those farmers you're working with? I'm like, sure. I'll give you some names. You call. They call me back and they're like, that's amazing. Those people love you. Yeah, we're helping them. All right. We also do a little price forecasting. Caution here, but nevertheless, we've done pretty well with this, actually. Just based on weather. All right? Don't know anything else. But back in 2011, we actually forecasted corn prices would really jump because we were forecasting for 2012. We said the corn would go from $5 to $7.75, and because it would be the driest summer in 12 years. It turns out it was the driest in 50 years. Corn went to $8.50. Now, not exact, but it's a trend, right? In the summer of 2012, we said it would be the coldest in 10 years, second wettest in 25 in the spring, and then a seasonal summer, prices would drop down to $5.25, which they did. Then in fall of 2012, we said we predicted the corn would have the coolest and wettest summer in 5 years, but overall, 3,100 growing degree days, being the best yields on record, and prices would drop to $3.75. And they did. Okay, that was painful. But nevertheless, at least you know what's coming at you, all right? If you know what's coming at you, it can help. Now, this is all based on weather. Keep in mind, we're forecasting the entire globe. We see what's going on in China, Argentina, Brazil, Eastern Europe. We got all that. All right. And so, and by the way, we've been doing this for corporate clients for Citibank and JP Morgan and those guys for several years. All right. In the last year, we were not too sure. We waited on the forecast because the dynamics were not really clear to us in terms of how it would affect pricing. But we said that the price would jump up in July. That's not unusual, right? There's usually oftentimes there's a jump in July. It did, but it came back down. But I want to caution you that we're not, this is not an area of expertise, all right? We're just forecasters in the weather. We don't know anything about trade agreements. We don't know anything about economic conditions in China. We don't know anything about how much corn is in your bins. We don't know any of this stuff. We don't study it. We're just doing weather, all right? So caution when we make predictions about pricing, because this is not an expert area of expertise. It's purely based on weather, which is just one factor. But nevertheless, we've done pretty well with this. So what do you do with all this information? Well, first of all, it starts with your seed selection, right? What kind of mix should you have based on what the forecast is coming at you? Dry, wet, hot, cold, so forth, right? Okay, so we start with our seed selection, then we move into your field population. This is sort of interesting to me because I know that many of you have variable rate planting technology, and I also know that many of you don't use it. Now, I don't know exactly what all that does, but what I do know is that if I could have the technology to vary my field population densities on my high ground versus low ground, but I didn't know the forecast, why would I use it? It wouldn't make any sense, right? But now, if I'm giving you a forecast that says an indication of what's going to be, you can actually use that technology to actually vary your populations and your densities based on a forecast. Makes sense. You can actually take advantage of the technology. Fertilizer selection. There's always a lot, every condition is going to bring different challenges. And if you know those conditions and you can see it coming at you, you can make a difference. We talked about risk management, marketing. We talked about your harvest timing, your equipment, your personnel, all the things you have to do to plan for that, when you're going to get out of that. And then your capital investments. Not everybody has an endless amount of money. Doesn't happen, right? There's always things you want to do, ways to improve, but you can't do it all. You got to make a decision. Use the forecast as one factor in your decision of what you will or won't do in terms of your decision based on the weather, right? Ultimately, we're trying to help you optimize your operation, right? All right. So you know these guys? Anybody use them? Anybody? Nobody wants to admit it? Come on, somebody use these guys, right? They're good guys, right? We talk to them. They got a great operations. There's a bunch of smart guys. But what they do fundamentally is they help you to understand or know what has happened or been happening in your fields up until, some of them all the way up till today, which is great. It's very helpful to know what's been happening so you can project what's going to happen. But essentially, they're looking at the rearview mirror. What we want to do is help you look out the windshield. We're going to give you a forecast of what's coming at you in the future. So potentially, if you're using one of these guys, I would suggest also trying to incorporate WeatherTrends, because now you're going to have a great view of what's going on from history about your rearview mirror and what's going in the future, right? All right, fellas. This is what we've been waiting for. Here's the forecast for this year, for the Corn Belt. You're like, blah, 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 whatever, get at it, come on, let's see the forecast, right? So here we are. All right, so this is the Corn Belt for 2016. This is a day-by-day forecast for temperatures. And what we see basically is here we are in March. It's cold, right? Right now, today, pretty cold. That's the day. And we have generally some cold temperatures, some warm ups here compared to the previous year, but generally we've got some cold temperatures, particularly here in April, right? All right. And then we have this big drop down as a potential of a late freeze in early May for this is the entire Corn Belt, remember? All right. Then we're kind of jumping up and down here, temperature-wise, but then we get here into June, late June, and we're going all the way out through to September, and it's almost all red, almost all hot. Very few cooler days than the previous year. All right, and I want to make this into perspective, right? Because 2014 was about ideal. 2015 was warmer, but it wasn't too warm. It was good, right? What we're talking about is more warm, hotter than the previous year. So, hotter than last year is going to be on the edge of getting pretty warm. I was just working on a forecast for a particular gentleman in Sterling, Illinois, and we were going through it, and as I kind of built charts for him, he was like, whoa, that's really hot. I mean, we were talking about his pollination season in Sterling, Illinois being like way above 90. All right, so here is precipitation. Here we said it would be cooler in terms of the Corn Belt, but it would be wetter also. All right, but then we get out here to May, and basically the spigot turns off It's all drier, all the way through August. So there's a potential of moderate to severe drought. Now, keep in mind it's drier in the Corn Belt because we had a lot of rain collectively in the Corn Belt. All right, so saying it's going to be drier isn't like, earth-shattering. But it's going to be potentially much warmer and much drier and bring a severe, a potential of a moderate to severe drought. And then wet into harvest. So you may wind up with a situation where you've got wet conditions in the spring, a little bit cooler, your root development is a little bit shallow, and then you're going to get into a dry season, and then it's going to be a little bit tough for that plant to reach its potential because the root systems are not really where you might want them to be in those conditions, right? All right. So those are forecasts for the entire Corn Belt, right? That doesn't mean that's what it will be here because it's all different. I'm going to go back to this map and show you, there are differences. I worked with a bunch of farmers out here on the border of Illinois and in Indiana, around Terre Haute, Indiana, last year, and they were having a great season. Loving life, everything was fantastic, and literally 20 or 30 miles east of them, they were getting buried in rain. It was like seas of yellow corn and pooled water. So the forecast can be different where you are, but that's the forecast for the entire Corn Belt. All right. So we have, as a part of our service, there's a subscription service that you can go on to our the website at WeatherTrends 360 and get a forecast for 2 locations for $300 a year. It's $25 a month. Ward Hunter from LG said, yeah, 75 cents a day. Not bad, right? So you can get a forecast if you use this code right here. Actually, that's my name, Frank from Ag. That basically tells us 2 things. That tells me that you were here and I was here. But what it also tells us is that you're a farmer, because we have special pricing, special offers for farmers. So you're $300 a year for the forecast for your specific locations, and then you actually can get, it'll drop down a menu if you want to get additional information. Let's say you want to buy 10 more locations or 25, or you want to see a U.S. map. Keep in mind, our big clients, right, are paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for a national map. So that's why we need to know who you are. So by putting that code, we're like, okay, so we're going to offer you national maps for, hundreds of dollars, not, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands, right? So that's why the code is there, all right? So we're trying to, be, make it affordable, make it easy, right? And also, if you're an LG client, you get a bigger discount. And Ward, where's Ward's back here? So Ward has got got a special discount code. If you see him later, he'll hand out a special discount code for LGC clients, right? All right. So I want to show you, so what you get for that is that you can build these charts just like I'll show you, 25-year charts for your fields. This happens to be for Rockville, Illinois, where I grew up. This is a precipitation over 25 years. This happens to be at the time when I printed this, I was on this point right here, and it told me it was the 12th wettest in 25 years. And by the way, this middle line, by the way, here is average, right? It's average. All right, so this is the average line, this middle line here, all right? And I want to point something out that I think is important. First of all, if we look at this 25 years of precipitation in Rockville, Illinois, for this time period, there's 2 points. 1, 2, where it's actually near average out of 25 years. Average is average of this. It's really not average. So average becomes sort of meaningless. That's why we rank it for you. That's why we tell you this particular forecast will be the 13, in this case, the 13 wettest. Again, I was literally on the phone with a guy in Sterling, Illinois, and we did build a chart for him, and it showed him that his pollination season would be the 3rd warmest in 25 years. Because we could actually narrow it to that, those last couple of days in June and into July 10th. Say, okay, this is your pollination, bam, here's what your temperature is going to be. And so if I had said, well, it'll be above average, you'd have been like, well, okay, well, that doesn't mean anything. If I said to you, what's the average rainfall for your fields or your area for your planting season? How much rainfall do you usually get on average? Does anybody know that? No. Nobody walks around with that. So if I said it's above or below average, it was like, that's meaningless because well, you don't even know what the average is, right? So we put it in perspective. We say it's the third warmest, 13th coolest, the 12th wettest, on and on and on. The third driest, so forth. So we try to put things in perspective for you. So you can build these charts for your fields with a subscription. You also get weekly and or daily forecasts in terms of like what exactly is going to go up and down. We saw we identified the week where the gentleman in Fulton, Illinois could plant. You get that kind of data. You also get calendars. Shows you day-by-day forecast, weekly forecast for precipitation. It shows you on a daily basis. The actual forecast, everything in blue is cooler than the previous year. Everything in red and gold is warmer. Color-coded, shows you different summaries for that month. So we're trying to put it all into perspective and give you lots of in-depth data, and you get those for your fields. So that's the type of thing you get with a subscription. So that's my sales pitch. Yep. So we do precipitation weekly, okay? And so with this precipitation is showing you how much precipitation for that week. That happens to be 0.62, and how much is that relative to the previous year? That's why it's color-coded green. That's 225%, or twice the amount of rain that was there last year. Now, it's important to understand that most of the time when you look at weekly forecasts for rain, we're probably not going to be always, that accurate, quite honestly, any given week. But if you give us, several weeks, you'll see it adds up. It's like, okay, it didn't come in exactly the same weeks as you said, but collectively over 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it might be. And because you're working in phases, right? You've got your planting season, your emergence, your pollination, your kernel fill, your harvest. You can actually break this down by those seasons, which, by the way, are not based on a calendar, right? Planting season does not follow a calendar. It's April and May. So you can do a forecast for just that period. That's why I said I just did a forecast for a guy for his pollination. It was 10 days, right? And then but you can actually look at, that thing actually shuts off. I don't give it attention. But does that help you? Does that make sense? Yeah. So these are the types of things, the types of information you get, and you can get additional information. And we also encourage you, if you're a subscriber, to call us. We're a team of meteorologists. They're all on the phone. Lieutenant Bill Kirk is there, the founder. He picks up the phone. You got a question, you got a decision you're trying to make, you want a little bit of context, perspective. Our corporate clients call us all the time. They got all these charts and graphs and so forth. They still call and go, okay, explain this to me, or I'm thinking about this. Can you help me put a little context into that? And then we will. We also do conference calls. Like we'll do a conference call and say, okay, this is what the forecast looks like for around the world, for China, Brazil, for Eastern Europe, so for Southern Hemisphere, Northern Hemisphere, those types of things. So you get invited to those conference calls with Bill Kirk. All right, so this is me. This is my contact information, email, phone number. That contact information is on the sheets. I've got some sheets that I can hand out, and also Ward is here with LGC. The same. He's got some handouts too. Are there any questions? Any thoughts?
When you say location, how big is the location?
So we actually, the question is, how big is the location? So we actually, when you put in an address, it might be a zip code or an address or whatever it might be, or you can actually click down to a field, and we just pick that latitude and longitude. So we're actually forecasting for that latitude and longitude, even though it's inside one of our grid points. But if there's anything in that grid point or that area that might be affected, such as proximity to water, or to a city, or to or topography, we might make an adjustment in that particular latitude and longitude.
Right.
Yes.
We have a subscription in September.
Mm-hmm.
Or in June, July, we want to look at the fall. Are you going to let us look into that period, even though our subscription is September? Are you going to let us look ahead?
So it goes. So you're saying it's 11 months and it cuts off like in July? Yeah, we're working on a system where we can keep it rolling. It's not there yet, but we can. If you give me a call, we can work it out. But we're trying to work through so it'll be a rolling basis, so it just renews automatically. And we just have that takes a little bit more code. Other thoughts, questions? Well, this is the question: is that price today? This is all new for us. So we try to make it affordable, so, it's, look, we realize that what we're telling you, you still think is a little crazy, right? So we get that. So we want to make it affordable so you can try it out and gain confidence. We're trying to we are sort of in an interesting position, right? There's a bunch of different subscription services out there who have huge goals in terms of revenue. We already make pretty good money doing the corporate sector, so we can afford to keep this affordable to you in the long term. It has not gone unnoticed to us that there are hundreds of thousands of you out there. All right, so keeping the price down is just fine in terms of creating a good business for us and an affordable service for you.
How much for 10 locations?
It's just $250 more for 10 locations. So for $550, you get 10 locations. Yeah, it's pretty affordable. Yes, sir.
Your forecast is based on previous year. And in your June and July, you're looking to be drier this year, but this past year, it was quite a bit wetter.
Right.
What is your number, driest in the coming year look to be? Is it going to be the driest in 25 years? Is it closer to that average?
That's a great question, by the way, and I don't have an answer to that. I could get an answer to that, but that's the first time I've been asked that, and I don't know why, but you're right. I'd have to ask how the Corn Belt would rank, and I just haven't done that. That's a great question.
Do you think it's as dry as 12 or not as dry as 2012?
I don't think so. No, not that bad.
Your slide a few back, did it have something on there?
It didn't rank it back here. I can find out. I mean, we ranked everything. It's a great question, and I just haven't gotten that question before. And I should, as you said, I was like, we should know that. So I can find out.
You have a price projection?
Question is, do we have a price projection for next year? Does anybody know what that might be?
$5.
$5.